But I tell you, I'm really looking forward to going bow hunting.
It's going to be here before we know it. Well, this Realtree hardwoods pattern looks great on this Bear Monster Bucks 2 bow, doesn't it?
You know what, it really does. And I tell you, deer season's just around the corner. And folks, I want to welcome you to Realtree's how-tos, tips, and strategies. I'm sitting alongside my good friend David Blanton, and over the next hour, we're going to show you a lot of tips and strategies how you can become a better hunter. David, I've been looking forward to this video for a long time.
Well, this is something we've always wanted to do, and now we have the opportunity. But the cast of people who will join us today is going to be awesome. We got Michael Waddell will be joining us a little bit later on the Realtree Pro staff. Also making cameo appearances will be Will Primos, Brad Harris, Terry Rom, and Steve Puppy from Hunter Specialties. So it's a lot of information in an hour, so it's going to go pretty fast, but they can rewind the VCR and watch it again.
That's going to be a nice thing about it. And folks, we're going to tell you how to prepare to go in the field, what to do on the tree stand, how to pick your tree stand. So you folks stay with us. Some exciting action on how-tos coming up next right here on Realtree Outdoor Productions.
Realtree's Whitetails How-To Tips and Strategies is brought to you by the Fred Bear Bow Hunting Equipment Company, a division of Bear Archery. Federal Knockdown Power. Simmons Rifle Scope Headquarters. Strong Built Tree Stands. Primo's Hunting Calls. HS Scents, the secret is sent away. Mossberg, proven performers. Ducksback, quality hunting apparel since 1904. Loman Game Calls and Blue Ridge Archery Target. Tinks number 69 Doe and Run. And by Bill Jordan's Realtree Hardwoods and Realtree Extra Camouflage.
Folks, welcome back. You know, so many times when we're hunting, we kind of forget about safety. And what we want to do before we get into all the other deer tips, we want to talk about safety and tree stands. You know, sometime or another during the hunting season, we hunt from a variety of tree stands. And David, we've got a couple of different models up here. And how about taking us through it?
Well, first of all, you mentioned safety. That's a big reason for us doing this video. If this video will keep one person from getting injured this hunting season, it's been worth it. A couple of things to remember on tree stands. If you hunt out of a permanent stand or a wood stand built onto a tree, every year check the lumber to make sure it's not rotten. Make sure your nails, the growth of the tree hasn't pushed the nails through the lumber. Also check for wasp nests. A lot of times people climb up in the stand for the first time during the year, maybe a wasp nest up there, and of course first thing they're going to do is bail out, and that's not a happy ending there.
Exactly. You know, something we talk about when we talk about preseason scouting, go by and check your stands that let you know your permanent type stands have been left up from the year before or the last several years. Like you said, check the nails in them, all the lumber and wood, because you always hear of horror stories each year of people falling from stands, but that's very important. But take us through these fixed position stands and also the climbing stands, and let's talk a little bit about safety features.
Okay, the first thing, safety in a tree stand starts with a safety belt. We always wear a safety belt here at Realtree. We don't allow anyone to climb a tree without a safety belt. So I'll jump up in this little fixed position stand by Strong Built, and to give you a little idea of how to secure a safety belt on the stand around a tree, you don't want to allow so much slack in the belt. If you were to fall out, it would leave you hanging even out of reach of the stand. You'd hang there for hours before someone found you. You can run it around the tree like this, and what I do is I get the diameter of the tree and actually tie me a loop in my cord around the tree and hook my safety belt back in. This way it allows me to have some freedom from the tree, not enough to where if I fell I would hang, but I would be close enough to the stand to grab it. But when I'm hunting and I sit down and stand up, this never rubs up and down the tree, causing noise and may spook a deer. So that's one important thing about a safety belt. Also, there's a harness type safety belts, which are very good as well. I prefer the waist safety belt because when I shoot a bow, I don't like anything around my shoulders and my arms. But as Bill mentioned, this is a climbing stand here by Strong Built. And the thing about a climbing stand, it gives you a lot of mobility in the woods. It allows you to move around, hunt different areas, and they also are pretty quiet now, climbing stands. When you're at the base of the tree, you want to fix it to where you have an angle up like this at the base of the tree, so as you gradually get higher and higher in the diameter of the tree, decreases in size, it levels itself out pretty smooth. Also the top piece, you want to start off at an angle, and so when you get up to your desired hunting height, it's pretty level, and that will give you more bite. Also, Bill, tripod stands have become very popular.
Yeah, you know, tripod stands have become real popular. And one thing about these stands first, David, I think it's real important when you're practicing your bows during the off season, put these stands in your yard or your archery club or wherever. Get familiar with the stand, get comfortable with them. Same thing with the climbing stand, because I promise you'll avoid an accident later on when you're really hunting for real. But as you mentioned, David, tripods have become real popular, and if you folks have seen our video and our television shows over the years, we use a lot of strong-built tripods, and there's a good reason for that. And David, how about taking us through that?
Well, they're very secure, number one, but you have to anchor the legs down. The reason tripod stands are becoming so popular throughout the country is because there's so many areas now that people are discovering good deer hunting and clear cuts, right-of-ways where there are no trees that will give you the view down the power line, what have you. So tripod stands can really be used like in hedgerows out in the Midwest. There may be some hedgerows where the trees just aren't big enough for a traditional climbing stand or a fixed position stand. So tripod stands can be a great tool.
And one thing you can do right there too, you can actually camouflage those stands either with fabric, or a lot of times in Texas, take down some brush and wire it in. So you can make those tripods very camouflaged as well. They range anywhere from low as 8 feet to around 16 feet, but those can be very safe. So what we want to do right now is our good friend Terry Rom is going to show you how to use a tripod stand.
Well, JD, that seems pretty sturdy. Now we got to brush it in. We've got our stake down. You know, a lot of hunters think tripods are only good for out in Texas, that type of hunting. But I found back east here, these strong-built tree stands, they work at a lot of good places. I like to hunt a lot of bean fields, a lot of cutovers, and a lot of times I find a lot of deer sign where there's no trees big enough to put a tree stand in. So the old strong-built tripod goes in there. They're great. But one tip is you gotta brush it in. In other words, you wear camo to hide from deer. The Realtree Camo works great. Same way the tripod, you gotta brush it in. In other words, I wanna break up my outline. See how this is broke up back here? Now I can get away with some movement. JD, how about bringing me some more brush? And another tip, brush the ladder, brush the front. You wanna blend in. And a lot of times you can just hang them over the sides, make your little doorway. And these tripods are great for young hunters too. You get up here, you got a good rest right off of it. You can rest the gun on it. They work great. I'm Terry Rom, and that's another Realtree tip.
David, that's some great tips right there on how to pick a tree stand, but let's get into the heart and soul of this video right here, and let's talk about emphasizing on how do we understand deer, as far as their habitat, their movements, where to find deer.
Well, one thing to remember, Bill, this video is not about hunting trophy deer or monster bucks. This video is simply to try to teach people to become better deer hunters, because let's face it, you've got to go to certain areas of the country where there are big deer, and really most of the country there aren't the tremendous caliber deer that we hunt on our monster buck videos. So we just want to become better deer hunters.
One of the most important things, I think the number one question I get asked when I do seminars, and I try to cover this the best that I can, is where do you find deer? And I always tell people one thing. We always like to hunt the rut. It's an exciting time of year. But if you think about it, everything centers around food sources. Sure. And I think understanding food sources from the beginning part of the hunting season to the very tail end is very important.
Well, and the way people can learn how to adapt their hunting strategies to food sources, to really study the available food sources in their part of the country, whether it's the Northwest around Montana, where alfalfa plays a big key, and agriculture in general plays a big key, all the way to the Southeast, where mass crops, persimmons, muscadines, and then you move right into your acorn crops for that year. But every year those mass crops vary, the abundance of them. So you really have to pay attention to what's available.
One of the most important things too, folks, when you hunt in different parts of the country like we do, I always ask, I kind of relate this to bass fishermen, the ones over the fish. I never hesitate when I go to a new lake, what are they biting on, how deep are they, hitting top water, underwater, worms, spinnerbaits, whatever the case. And really you do the same thing while you're whitetail hunting. find out what the available food sources are at that moment, that particular week, that particular month. And you can also kind of cheat a little bit. A lot of the agricultural resource divisions will have books about food sources that you can go pick up. You can call your agricultural extension offices, and that will help you a lot too in finding out about where the whitetail food sources are.
Well, and that brings up a good point. To find the food sources, you have to do a certain amount of scouting. So jumping right into the scouting, Bill, there are really 3 good times to scout for deer. One being right after a hunting season is over. This is maybe one of the most overlooked times to scout for deer. It's my favorite because you can go in January, February, you can still see the tremendous amount of sign laid down on the ground, scrapes, rubs. You don't have to worry about bumping those deer or disturbing them because you're not going to spook any deer, and they're going to be calmed down well before a hunting season starts back up. So right after the season is a great time, and then Bill, right before season, obviously.
You know, a lot of times during the hunting season, we mentioned, David, you know, you don't get an opportunity to see the vast territory that you're hunting, and you may have overlooked something. You may have been hunting one particular area, so you are right. When that hunting season's over, go in. But, you know, one of the most important times for us, especially in bow season, is hunting preseason, what I call preseason. Those deer are running in bachelor groups. You know, they're around the nearest available food sources, but getting out there in the woods, putting your time in is very important.
And also a good way to find out what oak trees are going to have acorns or what mash trees are going to have muscadines or persimmons is take you a good pair of binoculars, Simmons binoculars, and you can actually glass the tops of these oak trees or persimmon trees and see what trees are going to have a good acorn crop that year, so you can go back and concentrate on those trees, because you could save yourself a lot of time by going out there and finding that group of trees that has a lot of acorns on it.
You know, I always tell people, you know, when I hunt a piece of property year in and year out, you know, you kind of think about why is this ridge always hot? Why is this particular place always hot? And you can rest assured food source plays a big part of it.
Sure it does.
You know, I tell you another part of the season too, and I know that you do the same thing, we always continue our scouting even during the season. You always got your eyes and ears open. As you're talking about food sources, we also look for available signs, you know, as far as rubs
Sure.
and scrapes.
Well, Steve Puppy with Hunter Specialties put it best when they called it speed scouting. And what this is during the hunting season itself, you want to go in, let's say the rut's approaching, you know, maybe a week or so away. You want to go in, you want to find some hot scrapes, a well-used trail or a rub line that you really want to hunt. But you got to be very careful. You want to go in there and scout, but you don't want to go all the way into the core area of that whitetail, spook him, run him out of the country. That way, he probably will never come back during the hunting season. So you want to scout the outskirts of your hunting area without getting into the core area. And Steve made it very clear that while you're scouting, during speed scouting during the season, you want to be scent free. And Steve Puppy with Hunter Specialty joins us now with some great tips on how to keep yourself and your clothes and your gear scent free.
Hey, thanks guys. You know, one thing that's made me more successful is learning how to fool a deer's nose. You can fool his eyes with good Realtree camouflage, and you can fool his ears with a grunt call. But when you learn how to fool his nose, that's what's going to make you more successful. And it really only takes a few simple steps. The first step is washing your hunting clothes in Scent-Away laundry detergent. And when I mean your hunting clothes, I mean everything you wear. Your socks, your underwear, your long underwear, anything that you would wear while out in the field. The nice thing about Scent-Away laundry detergent, it'll eliminate all odors, any human odor or foreign odors that maybe when you bought them, even if they're brand new, they've got odors, so I want to wash them. And then we've got an ingredient called Camo Guard. That'll actually restore your old camo or keep your new camo looking good wash after wash. It's not going to fade. After I've washed my clothes, I put them in a scent-safe storage bag. I'll take a fresh earth wafer, drop it in, seal it up, keeps the odor of the wafer in, and it won't let any foreign odors penetrate that bag. It's not just your average garbage bag, because garbage bags sometimes have perfume smells or plastic smells, but it's a specially formulated tri-layer bag designed to keep odors out. Okay, now it's time to go hunting. But before you go walking out the door, it's time to take a shower in Scent-Away antibacterial shampoo and body soap. Then apply Scent-Away antiperspirant. Green soap eliminates human odor, and it also keeps it from reoccurring while you're in the field. Scent-Away antiperspirant and deodorant is not only a deodorant, but an antiperspirant which keeps you from sweating, and sweat smells. After you've taken a shower, now it's time to put your clothes on, but don't drive out there with your hunting clothes on, because then you're going to accumulate any foreign odors. So what we want to do is dress in the field. Once you've got to your hunting spot, that's the time to put on your hunting clothes. As you're dressing, spray each layer of clothes with scent away spray, and the very last thing I want to do is pin on an earth wafer as a cover scent. You know, another thing you can do while dressing in the field is apply scent away powder. It's great to use in your feet, your groin, and your hat band area. It'll help keep you dry in those real high perspiration areas and keep you odor free all day long. As an added measure, maybe you walked a long distance to your tree stand, worked up just a little bit of a sweat. We've got a scent away wash towel which you can wash off any scent that you may have accumulated while you're walking out there. And maybe you've been out all day and you don't want to go back and take another shower. Take those towels, wipe off your body, and you're ready to go again. We all know that when it comes to harvesting big mature whitetails that we can't take any shortcuts. Bill, Michael, and David, I bet you guys have to agree with me that we can't take any shortcuts. We can't be kind of quiet, and we can't be kind of still, and we certainly can't be kind of scent free. We've got to do it 100%, and that's what's going to make you more successful in harvesting big bucks.
Look at all this plush alfalfa in here, and folks, what we're going to be doing this afternoon, we moved some stands up, at lunchtime today, and this morning what we did, we took our binoculars and got up on these far hills that you can see away from us, and we saw a lot of bucks move off through this alfalfa to bed up in some brush, and we put up a stand. I think it's going to be a good afternoon. Let's just see what happens. This is our stand setup right here. The tree's not that big, but it's around the trails, and we're gonna see how good this Realtree Extra works right now. Hope this camo does the job. I can't say enough about scouting and knowing where the deer are coming in and out of any kind of area. And right here, we didn't have the biggest tree in the world to put our tree stands, and we're probably only about 10 or 12 feet above the ground, but we had good cover. The wind had picked up a little bit. It was blowing toward the middle of the field, and right off the bat, here comes this big buck. That morning, we had gotten way off the field with our binoculars, and we saw where the deer were coming in and off the field. We moved the stands in around noon that day when the deer were clear of the field, and probably started hunting around 1 or 1:30, and about 4 that afternoon, this deer starts coming to the field. One of the important keys, and I can't stress this enough, anytime that you're in a tree stand, is try to be as still as you can, because movement will give you away, especially when you're only around 10, 11 feet above the ground. But right here, we're very cautious. We got the wind in our favor. We're not moving, and let our camo pattern work for us. Watch right here how still I am when this deer is in bow range. I don't move at all. When possible, you always want to draw your bow back when the deer is looking away from you. As this deer approaches, I always have a shooting lane. I know exactly where I want to shoot. And watch what I do right here to stop this deer in here in just a minute. And it'll help you next time. I'll either whistle or I'll grunt with my voice to try to stop it in a particular place and hopefully to make a good shot. Again, I'm not moving right here. I'm waiting till he gets beside me and actually looking away before I pull back the bow. Now that's exciting. A lot of times when you shoot a deer, he'll try to go back the way that he walked up. I know. There he is right there. There he is right there. Look at this buck. I think we got us a good buck. I think we got us a good buck. Folks, what a great, great deer. Let's take a look at this deer right here. What a dandy 10-point buck. Oh man, what a beautiful deer. Got good inside spread, got good tine length right there. And
always check the safety and stability of your stands before attempting to hunt out of them. Never leave home without your safety belt. Use it while hunting and hanging your stands. Find the primary food source in the area you are hunting. Scout your area wisely and thoroughly before, during, and after the season. Always make an attempt to be scent-free while hunting and scouting.
Well, Bill, that hunt in Montana right there proves how long-range scouting can be successful.
I think that's a prime example right there, Michael, using optics to be able to locate the deer, find out how big the deer was and where he went off the field and that food source. And so many times, a lot of folks have seen you on our television show and our video. This is Michael Waddell, Team Realtree, and Michael, you know how important optics are to us. How about taking us through a good optic and what those numbers mean?
Well, binoculars do. They play such a vital role in what we do. And it's pretty simple. For instance, a 10x40. The 10 number on that is actually the amount of magnification that binocular holds. The 40 on that is actually how big the objective lens that is. How much light does it let in? For instance, if you're out in Montana, you can see a long ways. A 10x40 or 10x50 is a great binocular out there because you got a lot of magnification. If you're hunting down in the south or bow hunting, you might want a 7x20. It depends on where you're hunting and what time of year.
One thing that's really important, let's switch gears just a little bit. We talk and hear so much about stand placement, different times of the year. Tell me a little bit, when do you like to put your stands in? I know that we put them in all during the course of the year and even pre-season. What's your theory on stand placements?
Well, my theory on stand placement and what I've seen is help us be successful is actually the scouting tying into the hunt and tying into hanging your stand. For instance, if you have opportunity to pre-scout or scout during the times where you're actually not going to bump a lot of deer, a lot of times the first time you actually hang that stand, a lot of times will be your time that you have the successful hunt. A lot of times too much emphasis is put on actually hunting the deer out of the stand. A lot of times actually scouting and hunting the deer from where you're not going to be hunting, a lot of times is more vital than actually sitting in that stand.
Let's talk about wind direction. Several times, and we've done this over the years and I've been doing it for a long time. If I'm hunting a particular area or particular deer, so I can hunt it multiple times with different wind shifts, I will actually put as many as 2 and 3 different stand setups in one particular area. Now they may be 100, 150 yards apart, but it still puts me in that core area where I'm hunting that whitetail. So multiple stands a lot of times can help us.
It pays off big dividends out there, and I a lot of times call hunting stands what I call out of the money stands. A lot of times when you say we hang multiple stands, a lot of times the wind direction might be wrong to hunt a particular area that we think the bucks might be bedding up in. We can't hunt that because the wind's wrong, but yet we can hunt 100, 200 yards over here and we can actually look at where the deer are coming out of this bedding area. And if they are there, all we got to do is wait for the wind direction to change and we got to stand sitting there in the good wind direction and we can set up in there and we're ready to hunt.
Let's talk about a high. We hear so much about how high do you get in a particular stand. I like 18 to 22 feet, especially, in bow hunting, hunting up close. But we've been successful at 8, 10, 12, even 15 feet a lot of times with the right stand placement. As long as you have a good coverage, you know, behind you, bow hunting early with a lot of foliage around the tree can help you. You know, but we've had success at all different heights.
Well, that's me too. I've always loved to hunt high, but a lot of times you don't have that opportunity to hunt high. Growing up in the southeast, it seemed like you had to hunt high because you had a lot of bucks. Even the does, they didn't miss a thing.
Right.
But a lot of times, you know, when it's real thick, you might have to hunt 10 or 15 foot just to get up under the foliage. If you hang a stand in some parts in early season bow season, you hang it 18, 20 foot, you don't see a thing. All you do is see the top of leaves. So, you know, like I said, if you got that cover, hang it low. Don't be scared. It's all in what you're comfortable with, and practice at those distances that you're going to be hunting out of.
I think that's an important key. Let's switch gears one more time talking about equipment. How many times that you get to a tree stand and you feel a little bit awkward about reaching for your bow or where your backpack is? And I want to show you right here, we got just a little bit of example how I like to hunt in a tree stand. I hold a bow in my left hand, so right here behind me right here, I've got the bow off my left side. It's on a little clip right there, a little hanger. It's got a little turn up there so the bow can't slide off. So if I'm hunting and a deer comes in, it's real easy for me to reach the bow, bring it around, you know, for a particular shot. Another great way is this hook right there. It's got a long extended arm, it swivels right there, and a lot of times what I like to do is put the bow right there in the middle. It's sitting there perfectly out of the way, not touching me, and that really pivots any way that you want to do it. You can put binoculars on or anything else, but this is really great right there. I really like that. Another great way that I like to do, you know, instead of having the bow across your lap and being a little bit uncomfortable and creating a lot of movement when you're turning it up to hunt, I will take the wheel of the bow, stick it into my boot. I just loosen up the shoestrings right there, and I want you to look how easy that slides into the boot. I can actually take my hands off, sit up here comfortable, put my hand around the bow when it's time to shoot, come straight up, one easy movement and make the shot. But that's another great way right there. You know, we talk about equipment, Michael. You know, so many, so important. We all take, you know, saws and clippers with us. I know you're firm believers in taking saws and clippers with you.
There ain't no doubt about it. You know, if you're bow hunting, you got to take a release to the woods. Well, in my opinion, if I'm doing any kind of hunting, whether it's rifle hunting or bow hunting, I'm going to have a saw and I'm going to have ratchet cutters or some kind of snips or prunes that I can actually get up there and I can trim out those limbs out of the way. And just all the tips you talked about here, they sound simple, and actually they are simple, but a lot of times when you're hunting deer, you get one opportunity. Whether you're hunting a big old doe in the southeast or you're hunting a buck in Montana or wherever, you get one opportunity. And how sickening is it when you're sitting up there, you got your hands hung in the right spot, and you're sitting up there and the buck comes in and you draw your bow and you got a big old stick in the way that all you had to do was snip it with the ratchet cutters and it was out of your way, you'd had a shot.
Yeah,
so cover all your bases.
Yeah, what's really neat right here, you know, I take a backpack with me every time. It carries a lot of things, as you're talking about. I have it between my legs where I can really reach it without any problem at all. You know, have a saw right there. I always take a saw, like you said, for pruning up limbs around you. And also these ratchet cutters. You can take these ratchet cutters. These are really neat for cutting all kind of little limbs and trees out of the way. And what we're going to do right now, we're going to hear from Wayne Ball and how to use these ratchet cutters.
Fellas, you know, late in the summer, whenever you're thinking about presetting your deer stands, what I want to talk to you about is getting in and out of your stand location without letting the deer know where you're coming from. This time of year, it's warm, it's hot, humid. A lot of guys wear rubber boots so you don't put scent on the ground, okay? We don't pump gas with our hunting shoes on no more. But fellas, we're walking through the woods with our bare hands during hunting season, touching limbs. This is not a hand, it is a scent pad with 5 air wicks on the end of it. And what I want to show you is the Model 801 Phantom Hunter in Advantage Camo. And I said Advantage because it is an advantage. I'm able to walk into my stand and cut limbs out of the way as I preset my stands early in the year, okay? And what I'm going to do is get this foliage out of my way so that when I come back in during deer season, my bow, my archery equipment, my tree stand is not going to hit any of this foliage and make noise where the deer would actually know that I'm coming into the area to hunt, okay? So remember, don't let a limb stand between you and him. And that's Wayne Ball with Florin Ratchet Cut Forest and Field. That's your Realtree Outdoors hunting tip.
Utilize your optics for long-range scouting and while hunting. Choose the size optics that best suits your needs for different hunting environments. Always consider the wind when placing or hanging stand sites. Never underestimate a whitetail's nose. Make your stand as comfortable as possible, so movement is kept to a minimum. Never leave home without saws and snips to carry in your pack to clear a valuable shooting lane. Always clear a path to your stand to minimize noise and scent by eliminating contact with limbs and brush.
That's a good shot right there.
I'm telling you, this bow shoots quiet too.
I tell you
now.
what, that is a quiet bow. And folks, what we're going to talk about now is how do you select your bow? You know, I've been bow hunting for a lot of years. Michael, you've been bow hunting, so has David. But I think what's really great about the bows right now, the new technology, anybody and everybody can learn to shoot a bow. And the new Realtree Monster Bucks 2 bow by Bear is an awesome get started bow. Great bow.
It's a great bow, and for a lot of reasons. You got a lot of bow for your money, and it's got everything that a bow needs for today's technology and what bows offer. You got your split cams here. I mean, you split limbs here. You got a magnesium riser. You got pin sights. You got everything that actually need in a bow for a beginner as well as experienced archer.
You know, one of the things that's really important, you know, we always talk about selecting your bow, and, you know, that also goes a little bit further in selecting the right arrow that goes with that bow. You know, and I know that Easton has charts about how you select, whether it be carbon or aluminum, how to select that arrow to that bow and to that poundage. And also your draw length, Michael, is real critical.
That's right. Those are two key elements that are real important in archery and a lot of times overlooked. Your draw length. I remember when I first got my first bow, I bought it, took it out of the box, and went to shooting it, and little did I know I was shooting a 31-inch draw, and I actually shot a 28-inch draw. I was hunting in a bow that actually wasn't set up right for me. So when you get a bow, make sure you set it up right for you, with your arrows, with your draw length. And when I talk about draw length, I'm talking about everybody has different length arms. My arm from here to here, when you measure to the tip of my nose, is actually what is good for me is a 28-inch draw. And every bow, just like this bear here, this bear bow here, has a module in the cam, and you can adjust that to you. So make sure, it's a real simple process, make sure you get that bow adjusted to you.
You know, right here, you just shot your arrow and your bow set up. But one of the other critical points, and I can't stress this enough, is when I first start shooting, I start using a practice field point. And I get my bow really dialed in, but I also take a broadhead. Before I finally go to the woods, I take a broadhead, I shoot that broadhead to make sure it's perfectly matched as my field tip was. I think that's real critical. You know, we've been using the Rocky broadheads for a lot of years. They're an excellent broadhead. But I think matching up the bow, the arrow, and the broadhead are really critical.
It's so important, especially nowadays more than ever because your bows are shooting so fast. It's nothing for bows that shoot 280, 300 feet a second. And if you don't have that broadhead tuned in, a lot of times, you know, you'll get out there and shoot that broadhead for the first time, and a lot of times if you're shooting at that deer, you're going to be real disappointed because it's going to fly over his back or wobble and do some crazy things. So shoot your broadheads before you ever go to the woods.
And what we're going to do right now, folks, we hear so much about paper tuning your bow. Let's do this. We're going to go to Shane Collier, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about the bow and also how to paper tune.
Paper tuning a bow is something that's overlooked by most bow hunters. Today we're going to paper tune this Monster Bucks 2 Bear bow. What we've done is we've installed a rest, a sight, string silencers, and a knock. So we're just getting started. So what we're going to do now is we're going to shoot this bow through paper. We've got a wooden rack with paper stretched across it. You can use any type paper, newspaper. A lot of people will use the white paper you buy in the grocery store that you use to wrap meat with. It works great too. But just anything to hold the paper up. You want to put it in front of your backstop, but be out in the open where you can see real well so you can make sure when you shoot through the paper your arrow will go into your backstop. So what we're going to do now is shoot through the paper, and that's going to let us know what our arrow is doing when it comes out of the bow, so we'll know which way to adjust our rest if we need to get proper arrow flight to help us this coming deer season with our broadheads. So let's shoot through and see what we've got. You can see where this arrow goes through the paper here, the field tip went through on the right side and it tore left and the veins went through on the left side. So that lets us know that the arrow is kicking to the left. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the rest on this bow and we're going to move it in to the right, move the arrow in some and see if we can straighten that up a little bit to help the arrow flight. Okay, so we shot through the paper and we know the arrow is tearing to the left. So what I'm going to do is put my Allen wrenches in, loosen the rest up, and I'm just going to ease this rest in to the right. And it was tearing pretty good to the left, so I'm going to come on in. It's kind of trial and error. You just have to get out and play with it. Don't be afraid to make some changes because it's hopefully well before season and you got plenty of time to get your bow sighted in, and this is very important because it's going to help your broadheads fly more like your field points when you get it adjusted. So now let's step up and we're going to shoot one more arrow through the paper and see if we've helped it out and corrected the problem. Just be real relaxed when you shoot, just like you're shooting targets. Follow through. Okay. We'll push this paper back so you can see. And so that's a lot better hole there. You can see right where the point went through, and then you can see the tears on the veins on either side. So as you can see, it's a real simple process. A lot of people overlook it, but if you take time to do that and paper tune your bow and get your arrows flying true, and that'll really help you this deer season, get your broadhead shooting the same as your field points and boost your confidence a lot.
Select the archery equipment that best fits you and get comfortable with it. Make sure you select the correct arrow and broadhead combination for your draw weight and draw length. To make sure your arrow flight is true, paper tune your bow and make the necessary adjustments to achieve perfect arrow flight. Sight your bow by shooting the exact broadhead style and weight before you go hunting.
Michael, that's some great information from Shane, and I can't say enough how important it is to practice once you got that bow set up.
Practice makes perfect. That's the old saying, and I tell you what, we all do a lot of it, and that's a key element in being successful as an archer. And what I like to do, I like to start off with dots and go to a 3D target, and I really like shooting those lifelike targets because you can actually see what you're shooting at, and it's just like what you're going to be hunting.
Picking a rangefinder, everything plays an important key, and what we're going to do right now is go to Brad Harris, and he's going to share some more valuable information with us.
You know, folks, you can do everything right. You can have that big buck right underneath you, and it all boils down to making sure that you can make the shot properly. And the key to that is simply practice. And there's a lot of ways to do that and a lot of materials out there to do it with. One thing I like to do early in the season when I'm just kind of loosening up and tuning my bow up a little bit is I like to use a portable type target, something I can carry in and out of the garage real easy, stick down, make a few shots, get myself limbered up. And I'll do that early in the summer quite often. I use a recycled box target. It has all the dots on it, gives me several places to aim. It's great for field points. Tell you what, it'll stop 65-pound bows, no problem at all. You got dots on all sides. You can turn it around, shoot narrow side, full face. Tell you, it works great. Best thing is it doesn't weigh anything, has a handle on it. You can put it in your truck or car and travel with it. It's no problem. Same thing with the foam targets. We have the 4-pound polyethylene foam target here, and it does great. Up to 65-pound pull bows, has little sticks or stakes you put it in the ground with. It's portable, it's easy. You can set 2 or 3 of them, stagger them at different distances right in your backyard. Then you go up to the carbon stopper. You guys like to shoot carbon, up to 70-pound bows. It'll stop them and hold them, easy to pull out. Tell you, they work great, they're portable, and they have their place, and they work extremely well. But as the season gets closer, I like to move on to the 3D targets. Let's take a look at them. You know, when it comes to shooting 3D targets, boy, I tell you what, there's nothing that gives you better practice than that. I like to save mine till middle of summer when I'm getting ready for archery season to open up, and I know my bow is shooting well, but I really want to now concentrate on shot placement and arrow placement, working on that kill zone. What I like about this Blue Ridge 3D target right here is the fact it has the replaceable foam center. It shows me the kill zone of that deer. I know what I'm looking for when I'm out deer hunting. I tell you, another thing that helps is it's movable. It's the size of the deer, or a general size of the deer you're going to be hunting, so it gives you a real good view from a tree stand. I like to move it around a lot. The portability, being able to twist it and turn it to produce quartering away shot, turn it to produce broadside shots. One critical thing when it comes to shooting 3D is the fact you always want to look not only where the arrow enters, but where does it exit regarding the direction. Whether you're up in a tree stand shooting down, it's great to see where it enters, but find out where it exits as well. It tells you a lot about the way you're going to shoot from a tree stand shooting at an animal. Another great part about it is the portability, being able to pick it up and move it. And this is what I like about the 3D targets, the fact you can move them around in the brush, around the trees, out of the yard and into the brush where it's natural. Tell you what, having a natural setting gives you some confidence this fall. Also practice from an elevated tree stand. Be able to practice from the distance you plan on hunting from. Don't practice at 10 feet and then plan on hunting at 20. Practice from the distance you plan on hunting from. It'll give you that confidence and give you success this fall.
That's some great tips from Brad Harris. And what we want to do right now is take you through the most critical part of a hunt. And what we're going to talk about a little bit right now is controlling your emotions and buck fever. And Michael, there's a lot of things you can do, but you become a better hunter once you learn to control your emotion.
There's no doubt about that. And if I ever quit getting buck fever, I'm probably not going to hunt again. But the thing about buck fever, you got to learn how to control that, control your emotions. And there's a lot of different ways. One of the ways I go by is the golfer once said, Jack Nicklaus said, envision your shot before you ever make it. And there's a lot of things that goes with that. You're not going to ever envision making a bad shot. You're never going to do that. You're going to get up there and you're going to think positive and you're going to see that ball or see that arrow fly just perfect and it actually hit where you're aiming. That's the same way with hunting. Never think about making a bad shot and envision the perfect shot. Envision the deer coming down certain lanes. Envision the deer walking out behind a tree, you at full draw, and watching that arrow fly right into the vital areas. What I do a lot of times to remind me to pick a spot and follow through is I actually tape it on my bow limb. I will put a sticker on, type it up, and put it on there. Pick a spot and follow through. It's a constant reminder when I'm sitting up in the deer stand to remind me of what I need to do.
I think one of the most important things right there, whether you pick a bow or crosshairs, on a gun, the last thought that goes into my mind is put that pin and that crosshair exactly where I want to go. That should be the last thing that enters into your mind, and then squeeze and make a perfect shot. Exactly. And what we're going to do right now, I had a hunt a couple years ago in South Texas at the Perlich Ranch, and I saw a big buck the opening day I was there. This was the last morning, 4 days had gone by. Didn't ever think I was going to see that deer again. Well, lo and behold, I did see him again. I saw a couple of other deer, and I really had to learn to control my emotions and pick a spot. Let's take a look at that hunt right now. Controlling your emotion all starts with the right preparation. And by preparation, that's having your bow finely tuned or your gun, knowing your gun and how your bow shoots. So often I hear so many times about people coming up saying, well, when I got buck fever, I didn't know what to do. I just kind of picked up and aimed. Well, what you can do, little tips that I do a lot of times, I actually, once I see a deer that I know I want to shoot, I'll actually quit looking at his horns. When I'm in the stand, I play a game called the what if factor. What if this buck walks here? What if he walks there? What if I got a lot of different deer around me? And on this particular hunt, I have several deer around me. This is a 9-point buck with a broken brow tine that comes, walking in. Once I see this deer, and all of a sudden, here comes this big buck. A lot of excitement going on, but I'm very concentrated and know exactly what I have to do. It's really important that you control your emotions. I control my emotions by being prepared with my equipment, having my bow tuned and sighted in, not looking at his horns, and concentrating on picking a spot exactly where you want the arrow to go. This deer is behind some brush, but as he turns, I'm really concentrating on picking a spot. Now that is a great hunt of a lifetime. Really concentrated, controlled my emotions, and made the shot. I'm really anxious to go see what we got. I think it's going to be a great deer. Look at all the kicker points off this. Mainframe 10, which you can see. Got a sticker point coming out. Got split brows right there. Had another one right here, look like it's been broken off. One on the back. But that, folks, is an awesome South Texas whitetail. David, we talk so much about having the right equipment for your bows, your gun, your ammunition, your stands. There's a lot of things that come into play on a successful hunt. One of the most important things that we probably work the hardest on is having good camouflage patterns.
Well, that's the reason we exist, Bill, here at Realtree. The most important thing to us is developing fantastic camo patterns for today's hunters. And I've been amazed in the 9 years I've been at Realtree and just how long a process that is. I mean, it's not something that happens overnight.
It really isn't. I think so much it goes into your camouflage patterns for your head net, your gloves, your coats, your pants, everything, your bows, your guns, everything now is decorated with camo patterns. And one of the things that we like to do here at Realtree, we actually do a lot of in-the-field testing before the pattern's ever introduced to the marketplace. And I think that's the most important key. We have so many different kind of camouflage patterns. Our newest patterns are called Realtree Extra Brown and Realtree Extra Gray. We're going to show you that in just a little bit. And I'm wearing today Realtree Hardwoods. It's a new pattern from us. And David, how about showing them a little bit of the Extra Brown and why that's one of our favorite patterns?
Well, the reason this pattern is so effective is the amount of contrast. As you can see, it has everything from a very light colors that actually hits very well with the bark on this tree, It also has greens, browns, blacks, giving the hunter a lot of contrast. So when you back up and look at this pattern from 200, 150, 200 yards, it doesn't run together into a dark blob. It really stays separate, enabling the hunter to stay hidden.
I think you can see that even on this coat right there. You know, you got the bark going down the middle on the sides, but all the sides is kind of open with some limbs that, like you say, give you greater breakup effect at 150, 200 yards.
Well, we were the first company to put open areas in camo patterns like this, and it was a radical change in the camouflage market. But these open areas are incredibly effective in a hunting environment.
No, they really are. And I tell you, going on down to the openness pattern, you got your brown leaves, your limbs, and your greens, and then again your open places. And to really have an effective camo pattern, it's got to work not only at close range, but long range as well. And one of the new patterns that we have right now, too, is one of my favorites, the new Realtree hardwoods pattern.
Well, you can see as in some of the deer hunts this past fall just how effective hardwoods was for us as a pattern. But also, not only deer hunting, elk hunting and some of that oak country out in New Mexico, early season bow hunting, this extra brown is awesome. Turkey hunting, South Texas to Alabama to Kansas to Georgia, between the hardwoods, extra brown and extra gray, we've got it covered.
You know, an extra brown right here, we got some green leaves in it, where this pattern right here is predominantly got your grays and your mid-tone type colors, but still yet I have a lot of contrast in the pattern for as lights to darks, and it really is the most important part of the pattern right there.
Well, the other thing is it looks good too.
Well, it looks good too, and I tell you what, that's kind of part of the successful part of the hunt. You know, Dave, we make so much of camo patterns and wearing head nets or gloves or painting your face, and it really does make a difference. You know, the sun is out right now, and when I'm doing seminars, people ask, well, do you wear gloves, do you wear a head net? And the answer is definitely yes.
Well, we've got some film that we've shot early in the year showing guys that have no head net on as opposed to somebody who slips a head net on, somebody who's sitting in a stand without gloves on. It's incredible how their hands really stand out when the sun hits their hands. That bare skin tone really shines when sun hits it, as opposed to a hunter who just wears a pair of camo gloves. It's amazing how much more effective you can be.
You know, I tell you what, you know, you talk about being effective, you know, clothing has come a long way. You know, I've been hunting, I'm a little bit older than you are, but I've been hunting for a lot of years, and I've seen so many changes, not only with camo patterns, but also in clothing. You know, this is duckback clothing right here. This happens to be a bib, insulated coat with insulated hood, even though it's a little warm right now as far as us putting it on. But the new technology in clothing for as a full cut, the solid, soft, you know, type fabrics really make a difference in the field.
Clothes are a lot more functional now. This has a water-resistant outer lining. This has roomy pockets. You can put a lot of gear in there. And it's also warm and quiet, and that's the big thing. You'll notice this brushed cotton here is very quiet.
Yeah, you can't even hardly hear it. You know, this particular unit right here has Hollyfield for its insulation in it, and it's 20% warmer than a non-branded, you know, type, you know, product. But, you know, what's really neat about this, you know, over the years, you know, I like to wear coveralls, but I've really enjoyed wearing these bibs right there because of the stretch and everything the straps give you.
Exactly. So we're proud to have Ducks Back aboard. We're proud to show the folks this line of Ducks Back clothes. Let's take a look at some more ways Realtree is effective all across the country.
Let's take a look right now. Right here, this is Realtree Extra Brown. You can see how effective it is up in a tree stand. It has all the right colors, browns, grays, and also some green and brown leaves. Here it works on the ground, great for deer hunting and also for turkey hunting. Look how realistic the pattern works in this situation. You know, one thing about camo patterns, they have to work everywhere. That's in hardwoods, and this particular shot right here is in South Texas. Always pick a pattern that's versatile and will work everywhere. Realtree has also introduced Realtree hardwoods. This particular pattern right here has a lot of grays, browns with black shadows. Just look how effective this camo pattern is. One of the most important things in picking the pattern, not only does it work in trees, but also on the ground. With Realtree hardwoods and Realtree Extra Brown, we like to think those patterns work up close and far away. Right here, you're looking at a shot at 200 yards, and look how effective it also works at 20 yards. Realtree Extra Brown and Realtree hardwoods. One of the favorite times for any hunter has to be doing the pre-rut and doing the rut. And David, this is my favorite time of year.
Well, Bill, I also speak for all the Realtree cameramen when I say this is our favorite time of year because it allows us to get incredible footage through the Realtree cameras of deer responding to calls, coming to grunt calls, coming to the rattle horns. But there are misconceptions out there. A lot of people have questions. What call should I use at what time of year? How often should I use that call? How loud should I use that call? So we've got the experts joining us today like Will Primos and Brad Harris, who are going to explain to us the correct way to use deer calls. So we're going to join Will Primos first, on deer calls. Then we're going to join you in Canada for an excellent rattling tip you gave us a few years ago. So let's take a look.
Whitetails communicate with each other 12 months a year, all year long, using grunts and bleats. What we as hunters are most interested in is the grunts and bleats that whitetails use during the hunting season. And I've got two calls that make those sounds that I want to tell you about. But before I show you the calls, let's watch and listen as a buck responds to the estrus bleat. Now let's watch and listen as a buck responds to grunting. You see, calls can be really effective. Great way to get a buck to come close to you for that shot. The first call I want to talk about is the hyper bucking doe. This is a pretty neat call. It's got a dual reed assembly in it. That way you can inhale and exhale so that you can make two sounds simultaneously. Really effective. I've got this end set to make an estrus bleat, and I've got this end set to make the grunt. Let me put these back together, and I'll show you what I'm talking about and give you an example of how I would use it. Let's say that I'm up in my tree stand, I see a buck walking 125 yards away. It's during the rut. You can tell he's interested and he's looking real hard. What you want to do is grunt at him to get his attention. So you try grunting at him, he doesn't hear you and he won't stop. The estrus bleat is louder, and that's really what he's paying a whole lot of attention to, because he wants to find a doe, a hot doe. So bleat at him and then immediately grunt at him. What that tells him is that there is a buck chasing a hot doe, exactly what he's looking for. And it would sound like this. Great nasal grunt. Now what I did, by bleating and then grunting, I gave him exactly what he wanted. He's going to come over there looking for that hot doe and that buck. Another tip. Try to set your tree stand up with some cover around the base. A treetop off to one side, maybe a thicket. That way when that buck comes in, he's going to have to hunt for you, and that's going to better enable you to get that shot. All right, now let's talk about the hands-free bucking doe. Great grunt call. Also has an adjustable reed assembly. I've got this one set on a young buck. Let's say I grunt at that buck. Now he's coming. I want to be able to get my hands on my bow or my gun. You simply take the call, slip it back into your mouth, so you can have your hands on your bow or gun and call to him at any time or grunt at him to stop him. I'm Will Primos, and that's two calls, hands-free bucking doe and the hyper bucking doe. Great calls to get bucks in close.
You know, I always find the decoying deer works when there's a better buck-doe ratio. By that, simply what that means is when you have a ratio of less does to bucks. You know, a lot of times in my home state of Georgia, we have a high doe ratio to bucks. And, you know, decoying, horn rattling, grunt calling is not as effective, let's say, like it is here in Canada. But decoying bucks in Canada this week, this is what we're doing. We got a few tricks that I want to show you that might help you next time. We basically got a doe decoy, and basically what I do, for a little extra tip in there, I'll take some Kleenex and put it inside the ear right there, and when the wind blows, that will actually flicker inside. I do that to both ears. Coming back to the tail, I'll actually take, perhaps a Kleenex, something that's going to blow real easy. I normally, shy away from something like maybe a towel or washcloth or something of that nature, because it's a little bit heavy in nature. The slightest wind will move this in the back, giving that body of that decoy some motion. Now, normally what I do, I always like to send it up, and I use Tink 69. And I'll take some cotton balls, perhaps put a little bit in the ear. I'll actually pour some back here on the tail. And basically what that does too, it stains up the tail, makes it a little bit brown, the outside is white, looks just like, deer's, natural tail. but you've got to use some kind of scent before sending it up. Another idea too, that when you're using a decoy, especially when the rut's coming on, you can grunt and rattle. And I find it very effective in areas that have a very low doe to buck ratio. Perhaps in my home state of Georgia, where we have lots of does per buck, horn rattling, grunt calling, and decoy may not be quite as effective, let's say, as it is in Canada, where the buck-doe ratio is a little bit better. But I'm going to draw a little scenario out for you, and possibly, you might try it next time. When I'm calling or grunting and I have the decoy in place, I like to grunt. And when that buck comes in to investigate, he is looking for something. When he does see something, he sees this doe down there, come to investigate. But I'll start off with some very, light grunts and maybe go a little bit louder with the grunts, something very similar to this. What I do a lot of times too, for you turkey hunters, I will throw the call. Basically, I'll cut my hands, make it look like it's a moving deer. By doing that, it means the deer, is moving around. If you want to try some horn rattling with that scenario, I'll start off grunting like that. I will take the horns, and I do something what I call raking. And by raking, it's a natural response to a deer, showing off his dominance, perhaps, just rubbing, a rub line, forwards in the woods. But I will take the horns and I will do something like this before I start rattling. Now again, picture that buck's head going up and down, rubbing this tree. It's a natural sound in the woods. Break some brush off in the back, do a lot of rattling. From there, I might pause a little bit, give it, a few seconds, and then the two approaching bucks start fighting. I'll do that perhaps 2 or 3 times, pausing in between each set, maybe 30 seconds to a minute. I like to end up by raking the tree. A lot of times when a buck runs off another buck, he likes to go show, he's dominant, he's the man around town. You may even start back raking. A lot of times I'll end it with a rake or probably, perhaps a soft grunt, hoping that buck will come on in. I hope this will help you next time when you try decoying a buck.
Man, I love to see that Canadian footage. That brings back a lot of memories, Bill, but it's cold.
It's always cold in Canada, David, as you know. That's one of our favorite places to go. I always see a lot of bucks. And during the time of year, we always like to be there doing the pre-rut and do the rut situation, and we take some nice deer out of there. But, what we got coming up now, we got Brad Harris. If you've watched our videos over the years in our television show, Brad is a master in the woods, and he too is going to take us for a few extra tips on how to use a grunt call. And from there, we're going to take you on a hunt of mine from several years ago from Iowa, where I rattled up and grunted up a tremendous whitetail buck. So let's take a look at what Brad has to say.
Tell you what, when it comes to deer hunting, my favorite deer call of all is certainly the grunt deer call. You can use it any time throughout the hunting season. Deer grunt year-round, and it's a communication sound that they're very aware of and will respond to very frequently. And it's something that's really, really easy to do. Many of you hunters are already doing it. There's a lot of hunters that haven't taken advantage of how exciting and how much action the grunt deer call can bring you. I like to use the multi-sound grunts a lot of times because it gives me a lot of variety. For instance, the dial-tone grunt, you can extend the tube, just dial it over to the dominant buck, blow into it, and makes a good grunt. Shorten that up without moving it, you get a higher pitch grunt. It's that easy, that simple. Or you can dial it to the young buck, a higher pitch sound, which I prefer the higher tonality grunts. It carries better and deer respond better as far as I'm concerned. So it's just simply a matter of dialing the tone from dominant buck to young buck and extending the tube anywhere you want to. And also the call gives you the young deer bleat, the fawn distress, the hot doe bleat, all within just a matter of twisting the dial. Another great call to use for grunting is the push button call, which is the touch tone. Simply push the call, blow into the call, let it up, get 2 different grunts. Shorten that tube up, gives you 2 different grunts. They'll carry differently during different types of weather conditions, so give those calls a try. Use the high pitch call, the deeper call, periodically. You're not going to believe how much difference it'll make on a day-to-day basis. Also, you can do the hot doe bleat Immediately followed by the grunt by simply pushing the button, doing your bleat, letting up, and blowing a couple grunts. I tell you what, try these calls. When the bucks are active, especially during the rut periods, anytime you're around the pre-rut, the rut, or the post-rut, you're going to have some excitement. The more active these bucks are, the more aggressive they are to your call. But don't forget, even if it's early season or late season, anytime a buck's not going to give you a shot or an opportunity, blow that grunt, because you never know when he's going to come looking for you.
This is a real cold November day in Iowa, one of my favorite places to hunt. Right here, I'm raking the tree, simulating a deer raking his antlers up and down the tree, marking his territory. Mixing in a little bit of a grunt call, raking, and rattling. This is a big CRP field. A lot of these bigger bucks will be cruising these fields looking for does. I can't emphasize enough by using rattling horns, raking the tree, and using a grunt call can be one of the most effective ways to rattle in and get a big buck within range. Right here, this is a buck of a lifetime. This deer is approximately 350 to 400 yards away. And watch as I grunt to him to finally get him to pay attention. That's a tending grunt. Before I pick up the rattling horns, I use the grunt call to see if I can get him to move my way. He does hear the grunt call and slowly starts coming our way. Now pick up the horns, start rattling a little bit. Right here, I'm raking the horns. Watch the body posture of this deer and watch what he does. He starts coming.
He's clicking one down.
Watch this deer as he picks up and starts running to the raking and the rattling of the horns. Raking right here. Here he comes.
Here he comes, here he comes.
Finally, he comes up over the little knoll, and look at the size of this deer. Right here, I'm not raking, rattling, or using the grunt call. This deer is coming up looking for another deer. He's anticipating and seeing another deer. So I don't want to use a grunt call where he can't see anything. This is an awesome buck. It was real cold that morning. Little did I know that my stand was going to actually make a creaking or a cracking sound, and this deer stops right there. He heard the stand crack. My heart is beating 90 miles an hour. Finally, once he calmed down, he starts moving once again, coming toward the stand. Right here, he's looking and wanting to see another deer. Right here is about 25 yards away. When I start to draw my bow back, the stand makes another cracking sound. And this is the results. He's moving away from me. That's a Boone and Crockett buck, and my heart is broken. That's a great way to show a grunt call how it works, mixed with raking and rattling.
Don't hesitate to use a call to stop a deer for a clear shot. Learn the vocalizations of deer and know when and why to make the necessary call to bring the deer toward your stand. Watch how a deer responds to your calls. All deer have an individual personality, and a call that does not work on one deer might work on another.
See, Bill, 3 years ago, that buck was a 170. I'd say that deer could be a new world record.
David, that deer huge or what? You know, that's a deer of a lifetime right there, especially with a bow. And right when I was about to draw back my bow, the stand squeaked. It was real cold that morning, and you saw the results. That deer got away. But the most important thing is, you know, we actually used the, grunt call, the rattling horns, rake in the tree. It all came together.
I tell you what impressed me, Bill, was the volume you got on that grunt call. I mean, folks, that's a tip right there. Don't be afraid to get a lot of volume on a grunt call if a deer's way off, because a lot of times a deer can't hear a grunt call way off, so don't be afraid. Well, Bill, there's another way to bring deer closer in to the stand, and that's through the use of lures. Tink 69 and their dominant buck urine. And we have Terry Rom from Wellington Outdoors who's going to join us to teach us more about Tink 69, how it can make you a better hunter, and how to use tinks when hunting a deer trail. And we're also going to go on a bow hunt with you from the Encinitas Ranch several years ago, where Tink 69 definitely played a difference. So let's take a look.
You know, there's a couple great ways to use scent. One way is to actually put the lure out to get the deer to come closer to you. Another way is to put it out to get the deer to stop to get a good quartering away shot. But keep in mind, a deer's nose is their #1 defense, so you really got to try to watch your human odor and try to reduce it. As hunters, now we must determine which way the deer will be coming from on a deer trail. In other words, are they coming from a bedding area going to a feeding area, or coming from a feeding area going back to a bedding area? Now once you determine this, now you can set your tree stand. In other words, you always want your tree stand on the downwind side of the trail. This doesn't let the deer smell you. And you always want your scent bomb on the upwind side of the trail. That way when the deer comes down the trail, the deer hits the scent bombs, he stops, gives you a good quartering away shot. Always keep in mind though, put your scent bombs where you can get a good shot, never put them behind a tree, and to use them as a yardage marker. Set your nice orange scent bomb out or your film canister, step off back to your tree exactly how far it is. That way when you're up in the tree, you can look down and I know this scent bomb is 20 yards. That's my shooting range. Now what you don't want to do is set your scent bomb out on the deer trail and let the deer get to it before the deer gets to you. Because what that does is, as an archer, that deer is going to stop. That's a quartering to shot. So it's not a real good shot for a bow hunter. Set your scent bomb down the trail. In other words, let the deer come down the trail. That's a good broadside shot. Have your scent bomb down the trail. The deer stops. That's a good quartering to shot. I'm Terry Ron with Wellington, makers of Tink 69. Now let's go join Bill on a hunt on the Encinitas Ranch where Tink 69 played a big part.
A great tip is to apply Tink 69 directly to your boot or to a drag pad going to the stand. I also like to put out cotton balls in and around the stand with Tink 69. This really helps secure the area and put a natural scent of a doe in estrus. After spotting this deer, I'll slowly give him a light grunt on the grunt call, not too loud, but what I'm doing right here, it actually shows that this deer, hey, there's another buck in this particular area. Once he gets close and smells the scent, he comes right on in on a string. Watch right here as the deer licks his nose, actually like a lip curl. He is scenting the air. Once the deer gets closer to the stand, watch him pick up the Tink 69 smell. He lowers his head and actually comes in. Look at him right here. Look at him picking up the scent right there.
When you're bow hunting, this deer is actually quartering away from me, giving me a great opportunity and a great shot. Now that's exciting. And this hunt came together by using Ting 69, good wind direction, and waiting for the deer to quarter away.
Great deer, great deer. Oh, look the way he fell over. Oh yeah. Folks, y'all don't know how excited I am. Let me just show you this deer. Let me show you this deer. That is a dandy, dandy buck.
Gun and ammunition technology has increased and improved just unbelievably in the last several years. Mention shotgun, and most people think of the old breaking open double barrel or single shot, such as I used for my first deer. I shot a deer with my granddad's shotgun using a 12 gauge and buckshot. With that, you just didn't get the type of accuracy that you needed at any distance. Some people shot pumpkin balls, others shot slug through those smooth bores, but you just couldn't get the accuracy that you needed beyond that about 50-yard level. Well, all that's changed. Not only now do we have accurate rifles, we've got extremely accurate shotguns, and we've got shotguns that shoot like a rifle as well. This particular Mossberg is bolt action. It's got the detachable clip. It's got a great finish, so there's a non-glare. Shotguns kick. There's a lot of recoil, and this one is different. It's ported, so that you're not going to have the same kind of recoil that you would without it. It makes a lot of difference. Shotgun accuracy is increased to the point to where using this type of slug at 100 yards, you should be getting about a 4-inch group. That's better than a lot of rifles to shoot these days. And that's contingent upon, too, the fact that you use a good set of optics, or especially a good scope. Open sights work great if you're going to be shooting really close in some real thick brush. But what are you going to do if the light's bad? And that's most of the time when you see those big bucks, is really early in the morning or late in the afternoon. Open sights can be tough to see at that time. So it's so important to have a good scope such as this Simmons that's great at light gathering. With a good set of optics such as this, with a good crosshairs where you can precisely place your shot out to about 125 yards, because that's about the effective range of this particular slug and this particular shotgun, you're going to do really well. You know, some places these days you can't hunt with a rifle anymore. Populations have changed. A lot of areas are shotgun only. What are you going to do then? You're going to go out and buy you one of these because you can't take your rifle in. You know what? You start shooting this thing and find out how accurate it is and how much fun it is to hunt with. There's a good chance next time you go deer hunting, when you could take that rifle, you may even leave that rifle at home and take this combination right here. It's a winner.
Hi folks, I'm Eric Leslie from Federal Ammunition. I've been running a test here that I think you all find real interesting. Let's go down to the target and take a look. What I'm doing here is duplicating a common mistake that I see happen all the time as people are preparing for a hunt. That is, they go to the range, sit down at the bench rest to get ready to sight in, and they get their point of aim and their point of impact. This is where they want to hit. But what the mistake they make sometimes is that they take a different type of ammunition to the range to sight in with than what they're going to actually use in the field. And in this situation, I'm using Federal Premium Trophy Bonded. Here's my point of aim, and here's my point of impact with the Trophy Bonded. Now what I did back at the bench rest is changed to Federal Classic. I changed the bullet style. I'm shooting a high shock bullet up here. I'm shooting a Trophy Bonded in our premium line. And as you can see, the point of aim is the same, but the point of impact is different. Now there's not that much disparity here, but if you were shooting at 200 or 300 or 400 yards, that disparity is going to keep, growing, and you are going to miss that animal. And we owe it to the animal to make sure that we harvest it the most humanely as possible. So you want to make sure, whether you're changing bullet grain weights or bullet styles, doesn't matter. Make sure that you use the same ammunition to sight in with that you're actually going to use in the hunting situation. Hope that's another good tip for a successful hunt.
Place your scent lure upwind of the majority of the trails you're hunting. Place your lure in range and in the clear to ensure a good shot opportunity. When using a scent lure to attract deer to your blind position, minimize your scent to ensure that the deer smell the lure and not you. Practice shooting your rifle and know how it performs. By getting comfortable with and confident with your weapon, you will be more successful. When practicing, use the same ammo that you will be hunting with. Different styles and weights of bullets may fluctuate in their performance.
Dave, that's a lot of great information from Larry Weissoon on shotgun slug hunting. You know, that's becoming more and more popular.
Well, Larry was the right man to deliver all that information. And you know, Eric Leslie from Federal Ammunition gave us some great tips on how to sight in a scope.
You know, it really does. And, you know, we talk about hunting and what all it is involved. These are some great tips, and we hope you can use some of these tips for the upcoming hunting season. And Dave, we talk about hunting season, but I can't get away without saying how important it is to get today's youth involved in tomorrow hunting.
Well, Bill, that's so important because the hunting heritage is something we need to protect. And all the conservation groups out there, they battle every day for all of us sportsmen to acquire more habitat and to increase our hunting season. So as somebody, we need to support Ducks Unlimited, the Rocky Mountain Out Foundation, and also the National Wild Turkey Federation. And coming up at the end of the video, we'll have all their phone numbers where you can call and become a member.
You know, these groups are really involved in youth programs and also the hunter education groups. You know, I can't say enough about getting kids involved in hunter education. Very, very important.
Sure is, Bill. Well, I tell you what, the Whitetail How-To Tips and Strategies video is, I think, 1,137 tips today.
There's a lot of tips. I don't know if this weak mind of mine can absorb all of it, but what a great video with a lot of great tips from a lot of great hunters.
Well, thanks for having myself and Michael Waddell along. We really enjoyed it.
I tell you, it was a lot of fun for us. And folks, I want to thank David and Michael for being with us and all the other people who presented this video to you. And just remember, as I always say, when you have an opportunity, take a child hunting and fishing so they too can enjoy the outdoors. For David Blandon, I'm Bill Jordan, and we hope to see you next time in the woods right here on Realtree Outdoor Productions. Now let's go get our stands up.
Or jump in the pool.
Jump in the pool might be better.